Okay. Hi. Good morning. Whew, I don't know how many people are actually going to be here by this point. I'm very sorry. I'm late because I did not. Let's put this at the beginning. If anyone comes back to watch this, I knew one cross street in town was closed to traffic in one direction. And the one down from it doesn't go all the way through anymore because of the stadium construction. And it turns out the other one is also closed to traffic in one direction, which is the direction into town. Ooh. So I'm very sorry. I had to follow two detours and then take a really interesting path to get into work because there was just no other way to get here. So good morning. Hi. Welcome to a live edition of What the Flock. And my first one in a little bit like this by myself. So good morning. And I have been really busy over the last fortnight. I've had a lot of change here, and hopefully Emily's having a great time settling in where she is now. I'm got my fingers crossed that everything's going really well for her there, and I'm certain it is knowing her. Um, and so apart from that, I am chipping away at Exeter and working hard on this cabled cardigan knit along to show you guys some fun and interesting options. Hi, Cecilia. Hi, Allison. Hi, Joanna. Hi, Janet. It's lovely to see all of you digitally this morning. And overall, what we're going to be doing going forward on What the Flock on Saturdays is going to be a little rundown each week of what new stuff has arrived. Obviously, the shelves around here are very, very full, and we are working hard to consistently be bringing you in great and beautiful stuff. Mora Naval. And we are, we've had a big Issayer shipment. So for those of you who love a little bit of Issayer in your life, we've got a big refresh of the silk mohair colorways and lots of both the Aran tweed and the regular tweed. So both the fingering weight and the Aran tweed are well in stock now. We're going to keep rolling in colors of both of those as they become available. Thank you. Yeah, this is my Elton cardigan, and it's a little bit about what I'm going to talk about coming up, as I've got some good plans for next year and some stuff to go over with all of you, and just overall some ideas of what I'm going to be doing in the new year and bringing you guys in the new year, both here at the shop and for me personally as a designer and as somebody who runs an online community. We have been working out the many wildly unexpected kinks on what I thought would be a very simple process of several things at the moment. So it's just going to take some time. I am building an ongoing permanent studio, which is good morning, Morag, which is a project indeed. So kindly, the people that I live with are allowing me to renovate the garage into a finished space, which means I can then use it as a studio and kind of a relaxing area and a third space for a little bit more chill activity over time. So, yes, next steps. We've definitely started adding more storage space and more display space here at the shop. We're going to keep doing that over the next few weeks. You're going to see a lot of changes if you're coming in and out. What else is going to be going on? We are going to build up a variety of interesting and different things to show you. So we will have more yarns arriving next week for certain to tell you about, which is going to be really, really fun. And starting in the new year, when I am back from our annual New Year break that we take. So just a reminder that the podcast does go on hiatus over the Christmas and New Year holiday every year, and always will do this. There will be no episodes, no special holiday editions or anything else like that in the future. So after I return from the hiatus in the new year, it should be around the 12th. I'm going to start debuting a secondary segment. So there's going to be this live for all of you every week, and also a pre-recorded podcast on Tuesdays of an indeterminate length. It will depend on how long the interviews go. And my overall goal is to provide something different in our space digitally and possibly in person, hopefully over time, is also what I would like to start doing, where I talk to people about their relationship with knitting and what it brings into their life, what it's added to their life, to create more of a I spiritual pedagogy of knitting. Sorry, yikes. I didn't know how else to phrase it, but I think that we all connect a lot with the words of Elizabeth Zimmerman, which is, and especially her most famous quote, which is knitting properly practiced soothes the soul. And it's an abbreviation of the quote and possibly could just be called a paraphrase, but there we go. So I concur with that completely, actually. And I have a lot of genuine curiosity for what knitting has brought into all of your lives. And I know from talking to so many different knitters and so many different people who are engaged with craft that knitting is an overall place where we can meet in a literal and physical, tactile, and also emotional, soft place for us to land and to find common ground and to find things to discuss and to know about each other and love about each other. So I have an overall pitch for How's the Flock, which is going to be the name of the Tuesday episode. And it's going to be a little bit more meditative and quiet. I'm going to make someone a beverage. We're going to sit down and I'm going to ask them to bring some early knitting, some current knitting, and I'm going to talk to them about what has gone on in their knitting journey. Hopefully people will want to bring significant things that have happened along their knitting journey, maybe projects or different tools that they acquired over time. The beauty of collection can also be displayed in this sort of format. I would love to hear about people's stashes. I would love to hear about what your emotional and therefore spiritual relationship with your stash is like. And I would also like to hear whether you're a stash planner. So I'm going to interview people and get to know them as knitters and as people and bring that to you as best as I can in a soft, quiet, edited format with a lot of joy and beauty and honesty encapsulated into it. That's the goal for How's the Flock. I do want to be talking about knitting and I do want to be sharing about my knitting journey. And I think more importantly, other people's knitting journeys and providing a space and a platform and a way of discussing what's going on with our knitting from that perspective. So hopefully that sounds interesting to you guys watching. Good morning, Kathy. And you will want to stay around and watch that when I start publishing it in the new year. So get ready for that. The first few episodes are probably going to be a little rough. I can admit to this, but I think after that, we will get some good stuff going. So stay tuned for what's going to be happening with both this particular one, What the Flock, and How's the Flock, and what that's going to mean for you guys going forward. Next year. So this year, I'm going to continue working on this particular cardigan and start a second one at Timberline. And both of these things are making me really happy. Working on this Exeter is really, really fun and surprisingly non-tedious for me. I think I really love it, even though I've made it before, because the cabling is so engaging and so fun and has that lace component to it that makes it a thrill to work with. Oh, thank you, Janet. Yeah, I really hope that people love it. I'm going to do my very, very best to make it something wholesome and nourishing and good. That's the goal. Wholesome, nourishing, good, with a heavy slice of joy, wonder, and awe. Oh boy, I've got big hopes, big dreams, and we'll get there. I hear stories that fill me with wonder, joy, and awe all the time in here. So I know that they are there already, and I know you don't have to look very far to find them. And I think too, like I want to focus on the beauty of the everyday and as in the day in and day out of what we do as knitters. And I want to bring that into the conversation all the time. So I've got some questions that I know I'm going to ask, and then I'm going to believe and trust that the nature of talking to people will lead to good, interesting outcomes. And also, the nature of a documentarian approach with specificity as opposed to making a general thing that follows a format that already exists. I have looked around and tried to see what's out there, and I respect a lot of the content creators who are working very hard to make things of good quality and that are doing it in a format that is already established and generally accepted. But personally, I'm interested in other things about knitting. And frankly, I do not see that being met in the way I intend to meet it in this public facing platform and also in the Flock Online going forward. And there's going to be a big focus on the sensual side of knitting, the like physicality of knitting, the joy of working with product with your hands, all of that sort of connectivity and sensation that we uh, get from knitting, that incredible amount of feedback loop that comes from it. I also, want to make sure that we're grounding these like discussions going forward from places of like, where we've been and where we want to get to. I'm going to probably say that a lot over the next while. This feels like retreading common ground, making Exeter. And it's really exciting to do it in the original intended yarn. I'm really enjoying that aspect of my knitting lately, is knitting things in the original yarns. It also, like, I'm usually guilty of always trying to knit something I've never knit before. And I think instead I'd rather like iterate a little bit next year, knit the same thing a few times and see how close I can get it to like a perfect ideal. Elton is definitely on that list. This garment is fine. This particular one is just fine, but it could be great. And I'm curious as to how we can take a garment and a pattern that someone else has created, be respectful of the original pattern and what it offers, but also at the same time, be critical about where different implementations of different skills could elevate the pattern farther and give us an outcome that we may be more satisfied with over time. So this one's definitely on the list to get a little bit of a rework. Not a big one, just a gentle zhuzhing. Maybe twice, we'll see. I might knit it in the same yarns. I might do it in different yarns to see if that enhances or changes how I feel about the garment. And I think those sorts of longer, slower explorations are really worthwhile. But I also think you realistically have to give yourself the time as a creator to do that. And trying to knit and rush through things at a breakneck pace will not be possible for me any longer because of the changes that have gone on in my personal and professional life and changes I want to make for myself, right? So all of this is to say, 2025, and hopefully an interesting and fascinating way, will be a year of nothing new for me. And that can be defined in a bunch of different ways. Luckily, I've touched pretty much all the yarns that have come through, and I'm going to touch the rest of the yarns that I'm planning on having for you guys for the new year before the end of this year. So technically, they won't be new. And the overall goal is to find a way to go back and revisit things. I've really enjoyed wearing my channel cardigan again in shelter, and I really missed Exeter, and I've been missing it for a while, and I haven't given myself time or permission to stop and reknit it. And there's a few things hanging on the rack that I'm looking at right now, like my rose cardigan. I would really like to reknit in different colors that I think I will wear a lot more and love a lot more. So I'm going to do that. And then I'd like to work on some new knits for myself, that's for certain, and try to see if there are some knits that have been long-term shop samples that I can restyle back into my wardrobe personally. But I'd really like to knit, so I'm going to continue knitting Timberline into the new year once I cast it on. I also plan on knitting Radmere again next year, this time for myself. Last time I intentionally made it for someone else two different someone else's, and then made some really questionable compromises to get that version of it finished. So I'd like to reknit Radmir possibly twice next year, or once next year and once the year after. We will see. Then after that, I don't really know on my knitting agenda. I know I want to reknit several of the West Knits Mystery Knit Along shawls and do them in the original yarns and bring those options to you to play with. So you can keep your eyes peeled for that. That's kind of a double whammy on all of the different platforms. And I think that the thing is, I want to create a cohesive digital experience that progresses in its refinement and engagement level as you progress with me. So therefore, here on this platform will be stuff that is almost entirely me to you facing. And if you come into the flock online, it will be a lot more reciprocal, me to you integrating. And then, of course, being here in person for classes, seminars, et cetera, will be the most of that, where it is a really good dialogue and exchange around our knitting in a space that gives us the time and therefore hopefully the energy output and input to get the most amount of growth and change, or what we're aiming for out of those sessions. So that's the way that I'm looking at it now. And that's how I'm trying to approach this going forward. So adding layers of richness as I can in ways that are really feasible, doable, and accessible. So my overall goal is to teach more in the new year. And also with How's the Flock, I would love to travel around and teach wherever you have a knitting group and interview other people when I start working through many of the people locally available to me who may want to talk to me on camera. So please keep that in mind. If you also are traveling to Christchurch and you see this and you think to yourself, I would love to be on How's the Flock, drop me a line. I would absolutely love to interview you and hear about your knitting journey, because that's what I'm curious about now, is people's knitting journeys and how they're feeling about their knitting, where that's coming from, and how we are doing that. So that's what's going on. What's new in store? We have new colors of the Aran Tweed from the amazing people at Issair. We have new colors of the Highland, which is their other fingering weight 2-ply construction option that knits up almost identical to Tivini and has a slightly different color makeup. We have a big refresh on lots of different colors of the silk mohair, so please go check that section out to make sure that you don't miss out on what you might want. We also have both of the mindful sets, the short tips and the long tips in the small sets in stock at the moment. And Christmas is getting closer and they do tend to disappear. So just a reminder that those sorts of things can get a little tricky to reorder as we get closer to the end of the year. So if you are looking to pick that up for yourself or want that picked up for you by a loved one, get into those earlier. What else? Should I grab some of the Issair Aran Tweed? That might help, right? That might help the situation. And I should probably show you a little bit more of what I'm working on, so we can start getting excited for what's coming in the next little bit too. We have a good little palette, I would say, of the Aran Tweed colors. Overall, they're really, really lovely and tweedy. It is a rustic feeling 100% wool yarn. So just as a side note, if you really, really loved this and really want to try some, I absolutely recommend it. It's gorgeous. It's going to knit up really well. I think it's going to be extremely durable, but it is particularly rustic. So just be aware of that. And you may want to order a coordinating silk mohair to hold with it, which would make it closer to a bulky weight and knit up really beautifully, I think. Due to the way this is plied, I'm not certain I would recommend it for knitting in the round by itself. I think if you were to hold it with something with a little bit more structure, like if you didn't want fluff, possibly the alpaca 1 lace weight, maybe the boucle and some of the colors if you want it to be super bulky, silk mohair obviously, or something else that you may want to hold along with it. The Eco Soft Fine, for example, has several shades that would go very, very well with this. Definitely do that, and just be aware that it may not be the best for right next to skin wear, but could make a lovely oversized Aran pullover or cardigan and would fit really, really well into that cabled cardigan knit along. So those guys are there. We do also have a selection of our redesigned products on sale as we are coming into the holiday season and we have several shipments of redesigned on the way. So we've offered up some of the items that we've got now, including the absolutely, pardon me, I'm going to lean back and reach for it. Absolutely delightful ooh, folio style needle cases are up for sale. I really, really love these ones. They are the Project 8. They're excellent and also part of that little sales session. So go ahead and check that out. Do stay tuned for the new year for what's going on with all of those things. The redesign stuff is on sale, and I'm just going to close out with a little bit of a thing about what I've been knitting. So I am working away at Exeter. I finished this front like the day that I cast it on. It did not take long to knit this portion of it. The rib is taking a bit of time because I've been in the shop and it's a little bit busy, which is awesome. And I got the pocket all done and ready to go. So I will seam that up and make it really, really good when I get there. Then I've transferred over and I'm knitting up the band. But the most impressive part of the entire cardigan is either the button band or the back. And I'm working on one of the bands now, but I finished the entire back. So before I take the time to block it, I just wanted to show you guys that it is super worthwhile knitting. It creates an absolutely stunning effect, in my opinion. The all over cable repeat just does something absolutely magical in my mind. And I really, really love it. And I'm looking forward to getting it all sewn up. So yes, there we go. All right. I'm going to run and get the shop open. Thank you for joining me this morning for this live session. I hope all of you have a beautiful rest of your day, and we will see you next week for another one of these. Okay, bye-bye. Oh, and just a reminder that we will be going on hiatus. So when Christmas starts to get closer, don't be surprised if we drop off for a couple of weeks. We'll be back in the new year. Okay, bye-bye.